Okay, I'd like to call the Plan Board meeting to order for Tuesday, March 1, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mayor Kodowski,
Here.
Jim Allen,
Present.
Kate Krieger.
Here.
Steve Kubacki,
Here.
Mike Skippington,
Here.
Corey Campbell,
Here.
and Gary Paul. Caller one.
Okay, I'd like you to stand for the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember the men and women throughout the world in uniform. I need a motion on the agenda. I have no changes.
Move to approve as presented. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. A motion to approve the minutes of the Plan Commission on February 1, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I have a
Ms.
motion
Corey?
and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel items cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Anybody out in the public that would like to comment on items not on the agenda? Moving on. Okay, action items, 7A, action regarding requested rezoning of parcel VA-99-5, 2305 San Luis Place from B3 Community Business to R3 Multifamily Residence. Aaron.
All right, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Let's bring the map up here that depicts the requested rezoning. This is the former San Luis Manor property. As you can see, this is Cormier Road, San Luis Place. South Oneida Street is right here. The requested rezoning is from B3 Community Business to R3 Multifamily Residence to allow for the conversion of the property from assisted living nursing home use to multifamily apartments. Roosh Gracie Properties is the applicant. They're proposing to renovate the building into 76 market rate apartment units. There is on the floor plan in the packet, it does indicate a small commercial space. Under the R3 multifamily district, that's not permissible. So I have conveyed that to the applicants. The rezoning, as discussed, is before you. I do have the applicants here. I'd give them a chance to just give a little bit of background on their project if they'd like.
Okay, could you come up and state your name and address for the record, please?
Kevin Graciani, 714 4th Street, De Pere, Wisconsin, 54115. So just like Aaron mentioned, what we want to do is take this, it's a vacant assisted living facility, and turn it into 76, right now 76 residential units. There seems to be a gap in the marketplace there's new construction buildings that are coming in, and these are at a higher price point, but they're new, and what we want to do is offer a new comparable product that is going to be more price competitive. So we see a niche in the market to enter into that the market would bear.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
The part that you say it does not qualify it for, what is that going to be? Coffee?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's gonna be one of two different options. So the initial plan was for it to be commercial, but since that wouldn't be since we can't do that with the zoning. One option is going to be just more common space for the residents there, or potentially additional units.
Great.
I know one of the questions I had, and Aaron, I don't know if it's for you or the applicant or whatever, what about parking? I don't know that that's in remembering that facility. I don't know if you talk 76 apartments, that's going to bring in multiple cars maybe per apartment. How many spots are there even there right now? I don't think there's that many.
So under our code, we require 400 square feet per unit. A typical parking stall is 9 by 18. Taking a look at the parking space that is there, there is adequate parking surface area to meet our requirements as it currently stands. Now, they may need to re-stripe some of the stalls to get at least that minimum, or get at least as number of parking units as there are apartment units, but it does meet our code right now.
Okay. Are there plans to upgrade the outside of the facility? You know, right now it's the red brick, white. Just kind of wondering, I know this is not site planning, but I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are as to how the building is going to be improved from just a cosmetic standpoint.
Yeah. The answer is yes. There are going to be improvements. I mean, it's going to be a lot of improvements in the interior, but on the exterior as well. Painting the outside, redoing the landscaping, and making it fit where we're trying to meet the market, like in our type of quality of unit. The exterior is going to match that. So it'll be a value add. The intention is for it to be a value add to the community.
Okay.
Can you just explain what holding costs mean?
Yeah, so since the building's vacant, there's no revenue coming in. So in addition to just the material and the labor to renovate and get the building to the finished product, the holding costs are the mortgage that we're going to be paying, the utilities to keep the heat on, insurance, and those expenses that we're going to be covering that are in addition to the renovations.
Aaron?
Yes, Gary?
Aaron, the subject of the action here is to rezone it. Really nothing to do with what it's going to look like at this time. Am I correct?
Correct. Site plan review would take a separate action.
That'll be another action. I agree. I'm going to make it real simple. The whole area there is zone B3. I will not vote to change that to anything other than what it is. That is my final answer.
Okay. My concern with this is some of the units are quite small, and although they are a one-bedroom at $995 a month, they're very small one-bedrooms. So I agree with Gary. I'm going to have a hard time rezoning this. This is a facility that Grandma went to die, and my grandma actually died there. And I don't know that what you're putting into the inside is going to change that stigma. It's a pretty big stigma that's there. And we've had many, many, many people walking through that facility through the years that it's been empty. And I don't know, when I look at some of your estimates and stuff, that's going to do it. So I'm going to agree with Gary. I'm going to stick with the B3 zoning.
Something else, Mary, to go a little bit with what you're saying. You are saying the units are small. Can you picture 4 10 by 10 buildings in your backyard, and that is the size of a room that is going to have full facilities to live in, I find that unlivable to start with.
Yeah, and I'll additionally add, I mean, if you look at the area around it, in the different buildings, what's going in there on the corner right now, you got Target above it. I mean, it's all business around it. It's, I don't know that it fits. So,
I agree, Jerry.
yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
If I may speak to a few of these points, because I hear what you're saying and I absolutely understand where you're coming from. And there's something to be said for those. So we've discussed these and tried to figure out what is the right fit for this, right? So speaking specifically to the size of the units, so they are smaller than the average. I went through every single apartment listing in all of Green Bay. And these are below average for the size of a one-bedroom unit. We're below average on that. But there's other factors besides the size of the unit. So there's things like if the washer and dryers are in the unit versus in a common space. Is there parking, covered parking? Is there a dishwasher in the facility? Are pets allowed? And there's a lot of different features like this that have a real impact on the desirability of the unit. And actually, in Stephen's point, there is a facility that's going up that has smaller units than what we have on here. Like their studios, they're getting $1,000, and they're smaller than our studios. And we're 20% less than that. And in a smaller market, I might add as well. So it seems like the market doesn't care when people are deciding. There's some weight to how much space is there, but there's other factors that they'll go into deciding where do I want to live and how much am I willing to pay for that. In addition, with the Target and the mall right there, there's these other businesses, and I think that that's reason that people are going to want to be here. People are going to want the access to these businesses. People want they want the location. I think this is going to be something that people want. And there is going to take, to reframe that, I'm sorry about your grandma, but this, to reframe that in people's, consumers' minds, what is it going to take for something to happen? Something has to happen to this building at some point, right? So what is that? And I think that if you put enough, and it comes in the form of money, but if you put enough money into the marketing, the branding, and the physical condition of the building, I think that you can change that in people's minds. Oh, and then the last item was the material cost, the renovation costs. This is the exact reason why I have brought this man into this project. So if you consider, to give this is relevant for the topic, but I'll be as concise as I can here. My day job, I import and sell products at state fairs and home shows, EAA, things like that. The RV at the Resch Center, we do a number of events there. Well, I've seen construction companies that'll do bigger projects like this. They'll go to your home, you call them, and they have people there that collect leads, and then they go and do the sales appointment, and then they'll do the renovations at a certain price. What happens is in each one of these steps, there's a mouth that has to be fed. So from the lead setter to the salesperson to the actual laborer, and then the business on top, and they have to make a profit as well. So there's just a lot of inefficiency. Like I've seen jobs, my mom paid $9,000 for one custom window. It was like 5 or 6 standard windows and then one exterior door. She paid $9,000 from Mad City Windows. And yeah, it's a very high price. So the reason why we're here and our costs are not just competitive, but also accurate is because Dalton manages over 1,000 units. From the materials, we have preferred pricing. We can get the exact same product for a lower price. And not only that, because it's us that's buying it, we don't have a contractor that's marking that up an additional 20 or 30%. So we're able to compete on materials. Because of the volume of business that the management company does, we're able to get competitive pricing with either subcontractors that we bring in or just the in-house crews. So it's just, we're able to get this stuff done. If this building is gonna need a lot of work. It needs a lot of money put into it. And what happens is, for any investor, anyone that wants to make productive use of that building, they need to find a reasonable return out of it. And if you go to some of these other companies, you either need to get your costs down or you need to bring in more revenue at the back end of it. That's the only two ways someone's going to be able to make sense of this project. And that's where we're able to compete, is we can keep our expenses lower accurately. Sorry, that was a lot of words.
Yeah,
but
no, that's okay, Kevin. So my concern as the village president is that I've seen a ton of the estimates because like I said, Aaron, we've had how many people walk through that? And these are people that do this every day for a living. And they couldn't make the numbers work. And right now, with the zoning the way it is, it can remain a facility like it is. If we rezone it, I don't know that you're going to be able to do that with some of these. And then, like I look at, you've got moving sprinklers. Is the building sprinklered
it is,
completely?
yes.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know. I'm in the same camp as Gary. I don't think I can rezone this.
Just my 2 cents. I don't think this development at this location is a good development at this location. I think you're retrofitting an elderly care facility. I think the rooms are too small. That being said, I think there's a higher and better use at this location. And I think possibly knocking that building down and starting all over again might be the answer. That being said, I cannot support this rezoning, and I'd make a motion to deny at this particular point in time.
He already did a motion.
Is that
so
a
I'd need-
motion? Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the rezoning, so now you can talk.
Could that be a hotel?
Under the zoning code, yes. Hotels are permitted under a B3 zone.
Okay, if we deny, does he have any resource to bring it, to appeal it to village board or anything else?
It will automatically go to village board, won't it?
Correct. Yeah, this is a rezoning action. It does have to go to public hearing and village board. Plan commission just makes the recommendation to the board.
Joel wants to say something.
I was just going to add, this is a recommending body. Ultimately, the Plan Commission is reviewing the application in comparison to the comprehensive plan and then providing a recommendation based on the findings that it hears at its meeting. With that being said, obviously zoning decisions are completely discretionary so long as it's complementary to the comprehensive plan. And regardless of the decision or recommendation that's made tonight to either rezone or maintain its current status under the B3 zoning district, each of those zoning classifications are consistent with the comprehensive plan. So it really truly does become kind of discretionary at this point for the village.
Okay, does anybody have any other comments, questions, concerns?
I think all the concerns were met already.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to deny the rezoning request. Any more comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This will go to village board, though, at the end of the month, correct?
The 22nd, correct.
Yeah, on the 22nd.
I'll go through tomorrow.
Okay, thank
Thank you
you.
for your time.
Okay, 7B, action regarding requested rezoning of 2600 South Ashland Avenue, parcel VA-160-4, from B3 Community Business to I1 Light Industry. Aaron?
Okay, as indicated on the map, this is the corner parcel at the intersection of Industry Court and South Ashland Avenue. For reference, this is the new Broadway Collision Center right here, Industry Court, South Ashland Avenue, and it's this property right here. For reference again, Broadway Collision Center is zoned I1 Light Industry. Property to the north are zoned B3 Community Business with the CN Railroad to the east, and then some other B3 properties further to the south for the rest of the Broadway campus. This property is proposed to be used for wholesale use. They're proposing to divide the property or divide the building, redo the building first of all, into two tenant spaces for wholesale uses. Wholesale uses are not permitted under the B3 zone, but they are under the I1 Light Industry. Site Plan Review Committee did review the site plan for this property earlier today and did approve it with the condition on rezoning. If you have any questions regarding the requested rezoning, the applicant is in the audience, and I'm happy to answer them as well.
At site plan, we talked about the fencing, if there is going to be outside storage, so that was my concern, but they would have to come back with that item, right?
Outdoor storage would have to be fenced. It would have
Right.
to have concealed fencing.
Right.
So that actually was actually on the site plan, so that was approved, as long as they have, if any outdoor storage does need to have fully concealed fencing.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So Aaron, is this building going to be basically knocked down? They're going to rebuild something there?
They're going to completely gut the inside, tear off an addition that was done in the front, add 5,000 square foot addition out the rear, and completely reskin the building. So basically tear it down to its bones and redo it.
It needs it.
Being on the site plan, Jay, we thought this was a good project here. Completely rebuilding it, getting rid of the buildings that are behind it that are a bunch of wrinkled tin.
Yep.
The landscaping, making it look more presentable for the entranceway into Ashwaubenon. So it'll be a nice project. I don't see any problem with it from the discussions we had at site plan.
Yeah, I'd agree that that property can use a facelift like this. So I think this is very positive.
Okay, Steve? Any-
Yeah, I agree. I think that's an upgrade at that location. It's been sitting for quite some time, and I think it'll be a nice modification to that building and that entire area. So I would support that. Let the record show I'm agreeing with Gary 2 times in one meeting.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, any other comment? Okay, Jay, go ahead.
I will make the motion to rezone. I'm sorry, I don't have the property number in front. This property, the B3 to the I1.
Okay, do we have a- Okay, we have a motion and a second to rezone 2600 South Ashland Avenue, parcel VA-160-4, from B3 to I1 Light Industry. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay,
Would you mind coming up to the
Yeah.
microphone?
state your name and address for the record, please, Todd.
Todd DeVillers, 401 St. Mary's Boulevard, Green Bay. They had mentioned that we're ripping all the skin off there. We're actually not ripping all the skin off there. We're only ripping the east and north side of the building, which are the most visible. We plan on doing concealed fasteners and masonry. So the other two are concealed fasteners already, but they're not as damaged as some of the other parts of the building. So we're planning on just painting that up.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay,
How come this wasn't brought up at site plan? we were under the standing it was a complete stripping of the exterior and new exterior.
Gary, I can address that. That wasn't actually brought up at site plan. We showed the elevations as proposed, showing the additional masonry. Again, the east and the north elevations are the street-facing elevations, and we discussed those making sure they have concealed fastener metal wall panels, and the masonry, the additional windows, so on and so forth.
That'll be good explanation for the next one that comes up like this.
Will do.
Okay, 7C, action regarding requested rezoning of parcels VA-859 and VA-883 between Cypress and West Main Avenue from BP Business Park to R3 multifamily residence.
All right, my map just bombed out on me. I'm just going to run through it while I try to bring that map back up. Requested rezone, there we go, is for two properties that front on West Main Avenue to the south and Cypress Road to the north. This is R3 multifamily right here. This is zoned business park with a PUD for multifamily to the west. Business park to the south, that's the American Family Campus. And then business park to the east as well. Town of Lawrence, a little island with some mini warehouses is to the north, on the north side of Cypress Road. The requested rezone for multifamily from BP Business Park to R3 multifamily is to allow for the development of a new apartment complex by Alliance Maintenance. The site plan has not yet been reviewed by site plan review committee. That will be developed in the future pending the rezoning. See, Eric Gorky of Alliance Maintenance is on the line if you have any questions for him. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer them as well.
I'd just like to say, I'll start it off, is I'm going to be in opposition to this rezoning. I think we should keep this as BP. We made efforts in the past to keep the multifamily as far back as we could off of Packerland, knowing that access to Packerland in Maine has significant transportation attractiveness to businesses moving along those corridors. And even more importantly, I think we've got enough multifamily in that particular area. I think keeping it at BP would be the way to go. I did have the opportunity to talk to the trustee from that district as well. She also indicated concerns about rezoning that to R3. And like I say, I was on board when we put the first multifamily in those areas. And in essence, I think the intent back there was, well, at that point in time, was to keep it in those locations where it was, or where it is right now. I wouldn't want to add some additional multifamily. I think basically as a municipality, we have approved enough multifamily over the years at various locations. And I think our percentages it has gone up significantly over time. That being said, the impacts on multifamily to both police and fire over the long term are something that need to be considered. And so with that, I cannot support this rezoning from BP to R3. I think there's a higher and better use here. Just because there's multifamily to the west doesn't mean that we have to zone this multifamily at this particular point in time. I think there's a higher and better use related to, like it indicated previously, the attractiveness of Packerland Drive and Main Avenue. And so with those reasons, I can't support this rezoning.
Thank you, Steve, for your thoughts. Anybody else have any comments? Jay, Gary?
Yeah, that's gone through the CDA. It was talked about. It was expressed from the people that are building it to be an upgrade in the buildings that they're trying to get through. I thought it was a good one. That land's been sitting there for a long time and no use has been giving it. We've got property on Packerland that's been sitting there for a long time and we don't see any interest in that right now. I personally thought it was a good idea to put it there. It is off of the main drag. If it was on the main drag, I'd have a little different thought about it. But being back there alongside of property that is Zone B, R3 as it is, I'll support this. Let's put it that way.
Can I address some of the comments earlier, or?
Okay, this is Eric Gorky, who is the developer of this property. So sure, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so in terms of a higher, better use, I agree. I mean, the land has been vacant for a very long time. So, you know, there hasn't been a commercial use that's been proposed even through the last basically decade of growth in this area. Office and retail are pretty stagnant as of late. You know, the whole office market is changing. Corporations are deciding, you know, how much of their staffing is actually going to be in person. And from a retail perspective, obviously, this isn't prime land. You know, we're looking at this project trying to increase the tax base as much as possible. We'll be able to put in a lot of very high quality apartments on this spot, much like Howard Lofts and Howard. With average rents, you know, from on the low end, 1,100 to the high end of about 1,800. So, you know, these aren't kind of run-of-the-mill apartments. They're large, you know, 1 bedroom plus den, 3 bedroom, 2 bath units.
Okay, Jay, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, Aaron, when we're talking the industrial park out there, I don't have figures. What are we talking about? How much vacant land is still available for industry out there?
I don't have
Do
the
you have any
exact
idea?
number, Jay, but I can tell you there isn't a whole lot out there. Now, that said, when people are looking for land, they're looking for specifically manufacturing, warehousing space is what I've come across in my 5 years here at the village. More the industrial park land as opposed to the business park lands. Business park does have a little more restrictive zoning on it than the industrial park. The industrial park certainly allows for your assembly, your manufacturing, your warehousing, so on and so forth. That's where I see a lot of the demand at this point in time, as opposed to the kind of corporate office, business park type uses.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. I mean, I struggle with this one on both sides. I understand that, yeah, we have apartments right behind there. I also am getting more and more fearful that with our situation of being so landlocked, that we are starting to become more and more of just being apartment complexes. And I really, the industries and businesses be growing at a higher rate than all the multifamily. To the point, to Steve's point, was one of the things I was going to bring up here. I'm getting more and more concerned about our fire and safety, our public safety coverage, because we seem to be adding a lot more. We've added a lot up by the stadium district. We're adding more down in the stadium district now to the east. We seem to be adding a lot. And I really have to start to question if public safety, if we have enough to cover all this territory. So I do struggle with putting more multifamily in there. And since this is still a parcel of land that's available, which is becoming key, is that there's available parcel of land within Ashwaubenon. I do struggle with putting in more apartments. So
Well,
I Eric and everything. I just feel that I think it's going to be difficult. I don't support it at this point.
Sure. I guess I'm not understanding. Don't the property taxes for apartment projects cover the public safety?
Well,
Yes, go ahead.
There's an awful lot of vacant land along that part of Packer land, and there's buildings that have been sitting there for decades that have been developed and have not been utilized. I think this is a good idea. Now, I recommend to move to approve the rezoning of parcels VA 859 and 883 from BP Business Park to R3 multifamily.
Okay, so we have a motion to go ahead with the recommendation for the rezoning. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, but I will have a comment with it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So now, Gary, you can say your comment.
Steve and Jay, I realize our safety department. I'm not going to fight you on that at all. But I think I have good justification in saying for what those people want to use it for, the property is right. I think people that are looking for commercial property are looking for larger pieces of land to build. We've had the opportunity to sell the land some couple of years ago to a company on Packerland, and the property was too small. So I think the housing is the way to go to get some value out of the land rather than it sitting there as long as it have. And that would give the value back to the village and its taxes and get use out of it.
Can I ask a question? Why is it going from BP to R3 instead of BP with PUD like it is on all the houses to the left?
I can address that, Mike. PUD is typically used when you have some sort of unique development that in an agreement between the village and the developer is getting some sort of relief, whether it's from the type of use, in this case, allowing for apartments within the BP zone, or else dimensional setbacks, so your front yard, your rear yard, so on and so forth. So the PUD does is it provides basically a special zoning for that piece of property alone. That's why you can have the underlying BP zone, but have apartment use on that property. Philosophically, I think it makes more sense if you're going to have an apartment use, that zone should be the R3 zone and meet the R3 zoning requirements. It makes administration of the zoning code much easier. So for instance, the other day I got a request for a zoning letter for some property just to the west, which has the BP zone with the PUD overlay. Going back and tracking the PUD information as far as what the relief was, so on and so forth, is very difficult. If someone's asking for apartments that meet the R3 zone, it makes sense just to do the regular rezoning instead of that PUD overlay.
Okay. The only comment that I want to make is I want everybody to be aware that and I said this at CDA also, the picture that is in our packet does not meet our zoning guidelines, our building guidelines.
Right, our site plan review.
Design guidelines for site plan review. So the picture that is in the packet is not what these would look like. There will be much more masonry on these apartments if it goes forward. So.
Correct, and just to that, we mentioned earlier, site plan review will need to review this separately from the rezoning.
Right.
What's the Pierce School District?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that the village had an opportunity to sell the land behind J&H Appraisal to a company that relocated to Wrightstown. And in essence, we do not control that much property there per se. Much of the land that's controlled on Packerland Drive is controlled by the Oneida Nation or other private vendors, be it Ameriprise, be it others as we go forward. So that being said, we don't have a wealth of land out there. We've got some land out there. And I think it would be premature to put this use out there in light of the impacts on police and fire in the long term. They changed the rules and regulations a number of years ago on the construction of multifamily, and a lot of that is wood construction. And that wood construction over 30 years or so is going to show significant aging and significant degradation per se. So I'm just really apprehensive of the multifamily we've been putting in this community, and feel that it's getting to the point where it's excessive, and the demands on our police and fire and other services, we don't need anymore. Or if we do, It needs to be at the right location for the right reasons. This was business park. We intended it to be business park. It's been very successful. It was a very successful tip all along. Just because it's been sitting there for a while doesn't mean we need to have a sheriff's sale to get rid of it. There's nothing wrong with maintaining a inventory that is available for other development as we go forward. So those are my comments.
Call the question.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning of this property from business park to R3 multifamily. Are
Can
there,
I hit one more time?
Yes.
If we shoot down this one, can they come back and say, okay, how about BP with PUD?
So just to clarify, so of course, as a recommendation, it does go to village board for actual action.
Okay.
They can come back with a different request, certainly. That's their right.
Okay.
okay, so everybody understands the motion.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed, Mike? Okay, so Corey Campbell, Gary Paul, Jim Allen, myself are ayes. Steve,
Correct.
Steve, Mike, and Jay are no. Is that correct, Jay?
Correct.
Okay. So the recommendation is to approve it send it to village board for approval. That's our recommendation. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, number 8, items for next agenda.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Just a little bit of update. I am starting to put some background materials together to update the village's comprehensive plan. What I'd like to do in April is just provide a brief background presentation on comprehensive planning, what it is, what the role of it is in the state of Wisconsin, and how it can be used for the village. Under state law, we do have to have an updated plan every 10 years, and the general rule of thumb is you update every 5 years, especially in a place that is developing as much as the village is. So I'm working on that right now. I'll bring that presentation forward in April.
Okay, thank you. For the next meeting will be a election night, April 5th. So we will have to move our meeting because they have elections in this room. So could people make the 12th?
That's better. That's better.
Gary, Jay, can you make the 12th?
It's gonna probably be tight for me. So, but I would say go ahead,
Okay,
because I'm gonna be busy right up. Well, yeah, that'll be tough for me. That'll probably be a tough one for me to make. But so, even the next week would be as well, I believe.
well, we can't have it, the next week would be Park Board and Finance, so.
Right.
Could we have Thursday, the 7th?
That would work for me.
Gary? Okay, Steve?
I'll try and make it,
Okay,
but,
The 7th?
the 7th.
Yeah, without going home, I have no idea.
Okay. Jim? You can't make it? You're going to be gone. Okay. Well,
Give it a whirl.
let's schedule it for the 12th.
12th.
Yep. We'll do the 12th and see if,
I'll do the best I can to get there. So,
okay. Okay, so that's next plan board, Thursday, April 12th. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
This conference is no longer being